What's up guys, it's Rob, and today we're going to be looking at the G-Wolves Skoll Mini. This is a $60 mouse that is pretty small, it has an ergonomic shape, and it has a micro USB cable. I definitely think this mouse is underrated. I did aim really well with it, and at the end of the video I will add clips I got while testing this mouse. And also huge shout out to G-Wolves and Vessel Gaming for sending this mouse out to me to review. I really appreciate it, and I'm really glad they did because I would have never really thought that this mouse was this good. But yeah, let's get right into it. So with the cable on, the mouse weighs in at 51 grams, and without the cable, the mouse weighs in at 48 grams. So like I said earlier, this mouse does have an ergonomic shape and it is pretty small. At my hand size, there is really no possible way I'm able to palm this mouse without having my fingers overlap mouse 1 and mouse 2. This mouse doesn't really seem like it was intended to be palmed. Claw grip is my main grip style, and it was the grip style I was using when testing this mouse, and it worked really well at my hand size. If you do have bigger hands, it might not be as good, but I think this mouse definitely shines with fingertip grip. It is very small and lightweight, and fingertip grip is just very comfortable, and it definitely seems like you can get the most out of it when using fingertip grip. Don't get me wrong, claw grip was amazing for me as well. It was very comfortable, but people who have bigger hands than me can definitely still use this mouse and fingertip it. One thing I would note when clawing the mouse, because of the ergonomic shape, I do feel more of the mouse here on this part of my palm compared to this part. I really don't feel any of the mouse here on this side, but I feel most of it on this side, and that's just because of the hump of the ergonomic shape being on the left side of the mouse more. This wasn't a big deal at all, but I just definitely thought I would point it out for people who might be looking to claw this mouse. Fingertip and claw just worked really well with this mouse, and it was very comfortable at my hand size. My hand length is 17.5 centimeters long, and the width of my hand is 9.5 centimeters wide. So now for the coating of the mouse. The coating of the mouse feels very slick, but it is still very grippy. I do have very sweaty hands, so the coating of a mouse is a pretty big deal for me, but I didn't get any slipping issues or anything like that with the coating of this mouse. It definitely worked well and was enough grip. The mouse does come with some pretty nice grips, but I chose not to use those just to keep the mouse as bare bones as possible. But the grips of the mouse can be a great option for you if you don't really like feeling the holes, because as you can see, there is a lot of holes in this mouse on the sides and on the top shell. And on the top shell, they are pretty big. I definitely only felt these here at the bottom because of claw grip. I don't really mind feeling holes when I grip the mouse, or any mouse for that matter, so it wasn't an issue for me. I would just definitely keep in mind that there are a lot of holes, and if you don't like holes, you can just put the grips that come with the mouse. Also, another thing with the coating of this mouse is that there really wasn't much gamer gunk buildup. Normally at the end of the week, when I finish testing a mouse, I have to clean it off and everything so it can look nice for the video. But on mouse 1 and mouse 2, there was pretty much no gamer gunk buildup at the end of the week. There is some minimal gamer gunk buildup within the holes, but it's definitely not as much as I've seen on other mice that have holes. So like I said before, this mouse does come with a micro USB cable, and this cable is definitely better than some of the previous cables that have been on previous G-Wolves products. As you can see, it is still pretty stiff, but it's definitely more flexible than the previous G-Wolves cables. It's definitely a step in the right direction. You still might need a more flexible cable, so if you are planning on replacing the cable for something that's more flexible, you definitely can, and it's made much more easier with the micro USB. Still though, I definitely think you might be able to get away with keeping the stock cable, but if you just don't want to feel the cable at all, then I would definitely suggest switching it out with one that's more flexible. So now for the mouse feet. The mouse feet actually had a very nice smooth glide, and they had a lot of glide as well. They glide very smoothly on the mouse pad, and these are definitely some of the better stock mouse feet that I have used. I was really surprised by these feet because my experience with previous G-Wolves mouse feet has been pretty bad, but these mouse feet are also a step in the right direction. I didn't run into any scratchiness issues or anything like that with the mouse feet. They worked perfectly fine, and I really wouldn't even bother trying to replace these mouse feet with aftermarket skates, because these are already good enough, if not better than the aftermarket skates, because they just glide so nice and I didn't have any issues with them. So for mouse 1 and mouse 2, this mouse comes with Omron 20M switches, and they have a very nice crisp click, very satisfying to click, and I didn't have any post or pre-travel on either mouse 1 or mouse 2. It is a very nice, loud, and crisp click, but the only issue I had with the clicks are the minimal amount of side play that I could find. So as you can see here, I'm moving mouse 1. The side play seems like it's a significant amount, but it's only because I'm using both hands. You only really feel the side play when you move either mouse 1 or mouse 2 to the side with your fingers. I never felt it naturally or when playing in game, so it really isn't all that big of a deal, but just wanted to let you all know that the side play is there, but it is very minimal. Other than that, didn't have any issues with mouse 1 or mouse 2. They feel very nice, loud, and crisp, and extremely satisfying to press down. The side buttons of the mouse are a good size. They're not small, but they're not too big either. One thing I would definitely note is that if you are pressing the side buttons with your thumb like this, and you are using claw grip, you might run into some issues of having to kind of get out of your grip to be able to press this side button here, because the mouse is pretty short. I would just recommend pressing the side button like this, because you don't have to reach with your thumb and press it like that. But other than that, the only other issue I ran into with the side buttons is that they do have a decent amount of post travel. As you can see right here, I'm pushing the side button. It's already actuated, and then I could still push it even farther in. It doesn't go all the way into the mouse. It stops right when it's flush on the mouse, but there is a decent amount of post travel. And normally with side buttons that have a decent amount of post travel, they feel kind of mushy. These don't really feel all that mushy. You still get that crisp click feel, and other than that, side buttons work perfectly fine. Now for the scroll wheel of this mouse, the scroll wheel feels great when scrolling up or scrolling down, and it is very quiet. I know some people don't really like loud scroll wheels, so this one kind of just stays quiet, and even when I'm trying to actively scroll loud, you can still barely hear it, and when pressing down on middle mouse button, you do get a nice crisp click as well. It is pretty loud just like the other switches. The scroll wheel does seem to require just a tad bit more force than average to actuate. It isn't much more than average, but it is definitely something to note. If you like more sensitive middle mouse buttons, then just definitely keep that in mind, that this one just requires just a tad bit more force than average to actuate. I never accidentally pressed down on the scroll wheel when scrolling up or scrolling down, and I didn't accidentally scroll up or down when pressing down on the scroll wheel either. Other than that, I had no issues with the scroll wheel, and it worked perfectly fine. And now for the build quality of this mouse. The build quality of this mouse is actually surprisingly very solid. It is an extremely sturdy mouse, and I get no flex anywhere on the mouse, which is actually insane because this mouse is like 50 grams with the cable on, and I just get no flex anywhere on the mouse. It's built extremely well, and it's just kind of hard to believe. It's way more solid than a lot of other mice that aren't even at this weight, which is really hard to believe. But the build quality of this mouse is definitely very solid and sturdy, and it just doesn't feel like a cheap product, even though the weight is all the way down at 50 grams. So now, would I recommend this mouse? Yes, I definitely would. For people who haven't tried small mice or like small mice, you definitely need to try this mouse. This mouse is an incredible option for people who use claw and fingertip grip, and this mouse doesn't even have any major flaws. I know some people think that because they're getting a very lightweight mouse, they might think it's pretty cheap or something like that, or that the build quality is compromised for having such low weight, but you do not have to worry about the build quality or anything about this mouse if you do end up buying it. It's just built really well, and it is a very solid mouse. And I definitely think it's very underrated because I really don't hear many people talking about this mouse. So if you are in the market for a small, very lightweight mouse, just remember this does have an ergonomic shape, but the Skoll Mini is definitely a mouse that you should try. Thank you all so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye! Oh my god.
This guy better die. Oh, I'm resisting dying. Holy shit.
How did I eat 2 rails there?
Okay, relax, that's it.
That's just something in Rob's voice. I think I will put Rob on my...
Don't get credit.
They don't give
Yeah,
me
make sure not to, because it'd be like, all
You perform with other mice?